Elimination Day. So please welcome to the stage, tom60229.
Tom, arguably the dominant player in the Asia-Pacific region. Here is their last call representative looking to take it all home.
And his opponent, everything on the line for him as well. Please welcome Orange.
You had one shot, one chance, one opportunity. This is his first of all of those.
Decider match number 1. Orange versus tom60229.
I came to the championship to compete with the world's best players, and that's why I'm here at Worlds too. I'm not the type of person that wants to dodge them. I want to play them. I want to prove that I can beat anyone.
第一次打的时候，因为那时候
First time I played in the World Championships, I was really nervous, so I made a lot of mistakes. So this time, I'm trying to approach it much more calmly so that I can play my best.
Winning the World Championship would mean everything, right? That's been the goal since day one, to one day take down the World Championship and be able to say that I'm the best.
Orange versus tom60229. Let's see what you got.
We are moments away from our first match on Elimination Day here in the 2017 Hearthstone World Championship. Orange from Sweden representing all of the hopes of Europe along with its compatriots against tom60229 from Taiwan. He would be the only player not from APAC to advance to the top 8. And that would be quite the storyline. I can't wait to see what's going to happen in this best of 5 Kibler.
It's really interesting to see, just from a region perspective, how they are performing. Asia Pacific has long really been considered a frankly weaker region than many of the others. But the top players we have here today are doing exceptionally well at this championship.
That's right. It's all about quality over quantity. China's the same way, staying alive in the tournament. And we'll see who's laughing at the end of the day. Here's a little bit of a rematch trip down memory lane. tom60229 defeated Orange back in the first day of competition by a score of 3-1, but most notably sweeping the Highlander Priest. And it seems like there's multiple classes that are falling victim to that. Priest seems to be the #1 candidate.
Yeah, we've seen Priest suffer a number of times, going down 0-3. Actually, Purple's teammate Orange also lost with his Priest 0-3 after being up 2-0. So it has been a deck, despite all of its power, that has been overcome quite often in this tournament. Though we did see the graph at the beginning, it is still one of the overall winningest decks in the tournament.
That's right, and you know, there's a lot of pressure being put on Orange too, because there's expectations, not only just for his performance, but how will Hunter perform? Hunter's going to come up here in the first game, and you know, Sato even predicted that it'll remain undefeated. But you know, we put that under the bold category. We know that this could be a liability as much as so far it's worked out.
Yeah, and this matchup is one that the Hunter has certainly the potential to come out strong and overtake the Priest before they can get their removal effects online. The Galaka Crawler in Tom's opening hand, though, is pretty strong in the matchup given the way that Orange has built his deck. It's one of the answers he has that can deal with those pirates very efficiently and then kill future minions, because Orange really needs to snowball the board with pressure in order to get ahead.
If I'm not mistaken, that is a
It
4.
looked like Orange, yeah, it looks like he actually kept his entire hand, which means he does not have a 1-drop to go with that Crackling Razor Maw.
But he does have the Galaka Crawler, which can, you know, pretty much stand up to all of Priest removal outside of the Shadow Word Pain.
I mean, looking at Orange's hand, there's a couple of ways that he can aim to play this. And I think the Galaka Crawl is going to change what his original plan might have been. He may have been looking to coin 3 into 3 and then follow up with a Crackling Razor Maw buff. Now, though, with the draw of the Galaka Crawler, he can play the 2-drop on 2, or rather 2-drop on 1, follow up with a Crackling Razor Maw to buff it on 2. And this does make the Galaka Crawler from Tom kind of less efficient, because he's going to have to wait to find an actual target for it.
Only one card was kept from tom60229. It's the Galaka Crawler, and we've seen multiple times through this tournament. We've seen it all throughout the years since Patches has you know, graced us with his appearance about holding on to Galaka Crawler because players playing around it.
Yeah, and now Orange seeing that Galaka Crawler come down, knowing, if he's been paying attention to the mulligan, that was the one card Tom kept, that he no longer has the threat of any of the really key cards from Tom's opening hand that he might have been holding on to. This is not the selection that Orange was hoping for.
Yeah.
He wanted to get +1/+1 is probably the best option, or +3 attack, maybe poisonous. Any of those would allow him to kill the Galactic Crawler and keep both of his minions around. Now, Tom has the opportunity to at least just trade Galactic Crawler with that Crackling Razor.
But what's the next best option here? Your opponent hasn't removed your early game threat, and you're most likely going to set up, the Animal Companion or the South Sea Captain. Health does give you more longevity in case you do draw like a Houndmaster, for example.
I think
looks like Orange is going to favor that because the Divine Shield seems kind of flimsy.
Right. The health here, means that he has a minion that is also potentially resilient to getting Potion of Madness and getting itself killed. If Tom were to potion this, it's much more likely that it'll stay alive. Ooh, this is a very good result with the Glimmerroot here with the Eagle Horn Bow, because Priest often will struggle to deal with early game minions who doesn't have specific removal spells, but Bow gives him the opportunity to kill those early game minions and then just use his hero power or the Binding Heal already in his hand to keep himself alive.
This is a little bit of a tough situation from Orange. If he doesn't get Leok off the Animal Companion, then he's going to be in a situation where the Priest potentially could get pretty big value off of the Glimmerroot trades.
Any of the three options from Animal Companion are okay. Leok allows him to immediately eat the Glimmerroot. Huffer would potentially just straight up trade. And Misha would at least protect his minions from the 3/3. So there's no terrible result if you were to Animal Companion, but looks like he's going to go ahead and Captain instead to guarantee he's able to eat this Glimmerroot.
One thing too is that Quarter Creeper is getting cheaper and cheaper. Tom just keeps picking up combo cards.
The Bow here is just so strong. It gives Tom the ability to clear off one of these minions and then follow up and kill the other. I imagine there's a good chance he'll want to take out the Galactic Crawler here. He is going into the 4 mana turn from Orange, which is when Houndmaster is threatening to come down, and that would make a 4 attack minion, which is always the bane of Priests. So I expect that'll be a priority for Tom to remove here. Still though, taking his time. No, he's going to go ahead and just play the Acolyte of Pain, Powered Shield. Interesting. So this does mean that if Orange were to play a Houndmaster, then at least Tom would have multiple draws on his Acolyte.
Yeah. So Tom is realizing that he's kind of weak if his opponent develops anything onto the board, because the Eagle Horn Bow is too slow. There's going to be 3 minions, or 2 or 3 minions on board potentially, and then he's only going to be able to remove 1 at a time. So this looks like he's making a big play to pick up some of those AoE cards like Dragonfire Potion and Psychic Scream.
It's true. Tom does have a hand that is in need of improvement. The Prophet Veil and Mind Blast in his hand here are both just weak cards until the very late stages of the game. He's looking for more interaction. He would be able to remove one of these minions with the bow, but at the same time, if Orange has the other captain, things could go really poorly for him. If he were to just go ahead and kill the Galactic Crawler right away.
Yeah, or even Spellbreaker would be a disaster to not draw any cards.
And this does end up absorbing 5 damage.
Orange is going to go wide. This is the turn before Dragonfire Potion. He's kind of caught on to what Tom's trying to do. Trying to get all the burst he can preemptively, and going to cross his finger for no Wild Pyromancer.
And there is no Pyromancer available for Tom. He does still have that bow, as well as Holy Smite for more possible removal. He could potentially even play Radiant plus Death plus Smite, killing the Captain, the Corridor Creeper, and having the 2/3 body on the board against 3 small minions. By going wide on the board here, Orange also makes the potential of Leok off of Animal Companion much more threatening.
Right. Oh yes, that is also a good point. Being able to plan out all possible outcomes for the result of the Animal Companion. Tom also can squeeze in Northshire Cleric if he just wants the tempo on the board.
And this will end up leaving up.
Oh,
he's
this
going
is
to cycle.
cheeky.
I like this. Yeah, he's going to go ahead and get a card and heal himself up a little bit.
He gets Potion of Madness. I mean,
That
that
was
was some high risk, because I mean, he's healing up a Galactic Crawler by 4 health. But if he was able to get pretty fortunate there with the draw, it would have been a massive swing.
And And now Orange doesn't have that much offense here. You know, he has a couple of other small minions. His quarter creeper is now dead, so he's gonna need something. All right, Misha's actually okay here, because it does make it difficult for Tom to answer his order.
Poisonous is pretty strong. Death Rattle is also not too bad if you're looking at removal options here from your opponent.
Both of those are really scary if your opponent finds a Potion of Madness, but if your opponent had a Potion of Madness, they probably would have used it last turn.
Right.
So I think you can feel relatively safe. There's no Potion of Madness in Tom's hand right now.
The Potion of Madness is okay if he makes sure that the Galactic Crawler has 5 health, so if he kills the Northshire Cleric, it can't kill the Misha, at least based off first glance.
It's also just the fact that Tom is at 30. Orange is playing Hunter. He has to kill Tom.
Right.
And as the game goes on, we're going to see Raza coming down. We're going to see, frankly, Velen coming down. Psychic Scream with Tom at 28 and only a single card in Orange's hand.
This is the reward for the Acolyte play. A lot of people, you know, if they're getting very tunnel visioned on just the board state, don't recognize the state of their hand, and Tom being able to draw a Second Scream on the turn that he developed the Radiant Elemental.
And Dragonfire Potion, the next card drawn. Prophet Valen, though, coming down, and there is no Deadly Shot in Orange's deck. There's a Houndmaster, but that would require him to trade his entire board for Prophet Valen. I really see Sottle's prediction of an undefeated Hunter coming to an end very, very shortly.
Yeah, Tom is chilling. He's taking a swig of his water bottle, can kind of relax because he knows that he is overwhelmingly favored from this position. And Orange does not have much. You know, Hunter struggles with the card draw, so they need to rely on that early board momentum to get all the damage in. He's done 2 net damage this entire game so far.
And it's not getting better for him. You know, the fact that there is a Raza in the hand, there's a Eagle Horn Bow in the hand. Tom can play Bow, play Raza, kill the Houndmaster, heal himself, just back up.
Yes. And I don't think there's a single draw. There's no Spiteful Summoner Call the Wild package in this deck.
The highest impact card that Orange has at its disposal is Bittertide Hydra, and that just wouldn't do enough.
It could drain the Priest of Resources, because, you know, force him to at least address the 8/8. But not in this scenario. Sousy Captain, very mediocre draw.
It really doesn't do much. All it does is absorb the bow hit or absorb 1 hit from Velen, or rather from Raza. Oh look, there's Kazakus too.
I mean, it's kind of fascinating to me that we anticipated that the Eagle Horn Bow would be a big deal, but Tom really actually didn't even need that for so long.
Yeah, he did decide to go with a plan that, frankly, worked out a lot better than just bowing things down.
Right.
Because he was able to find that AoE removal, which he predicted he would need. Oh, look at this. That's an even better crab than Orange had. Orange's was only 2-6. Tom gets a 2-7.
Yeah, and at this point, Tom pretty much has his pick of whatever he wants to do from this position. And,
even res a cleric and gets more cards.
Right.
Masterful.
All right, well, Orange decides he's going to pack it in, and Tom takes the first game of the series and the first game off Orange's 100 deck in the entire tournament.
This could be a repeat of what we saw in the first match here as Tom takes the first game and puts Orange in an uncomfortable position. But we have plenty more Hearthstone to play, as we'll be back with game number 2 right after this to take a look at some of the people who are going to support Orange, not just his fans, but also some of his family. As Ant being one of them, admirable, and add Tom to the mix. Why not?
I'm a karaoke fan myself. I can appreciate the passion.
Yes, but off stream.
You know, I've done my renditions of Ice Ice Baby on stream before. It's my masterwork.
That's right. We let Natalie do the Galvadon song, though, maybe for good reason. Coming up is game number 2 here between Tom and Orange. Orange going to turn to his Highlander Priest. I'll rewind the clock and talk a little bit about how Orange's Highlander Priest got swept the last time he met Tom, and it is his favorite deck. He's grinded so many games. He's posted all over social media how it's one of his most favorite decks of all time, quite possibly his favorite deck of all time, as he even started tackling ladder. You know, Orange is not necessarily known as a ladder grinder, but he was able to get repeated top 10 placements with Razaburst.
And this is definitely one of the matchups that he's looking for with his Priest deck. Warlock has been banned through most of this tournament in most matches. Orange has chosen to leave it up, in part because he believes that his Hunter gives him a good chance of beating it, and also this matchup. This is a very favorable matchup for the Priest deck. The Warlock is great at gumming up the ground with Void Lords and removing a bunch of opposing minions, and Anduin doesn't care about that. Anduin kills you anyway.
That's right. Assuming he can get to that point, too. The Cube Warlock has a lot of burst potential, and you kind of compound that fact with Mountain Giants being in the deck list. You know, one of the more recent innovations as opposed to the traditional deck lists of the Cube Warlock. You can just cube the Mountain Giants and just keep putting on 8/8 pressure, and without Psychic Scream, you can't answer that until Anduin.
Yeah, the version that specifically Tom is playing is very, very threat heavy. It does give him the ability to put the pressure on Orange if Orange is not able to actually get his own combo online quickly.
Prince Taldaram and Spirit Slinger Umbra, just more situational cards. That's kind of one of the important cards in this matchup, the Carnivorous Cube. So he sets up the Mountain Giant, can threaten to cube it, and Dark Pact it immediately for maximum pressure.
And there is Anduin already for Orange, which is a very crucial part of his combination, not only to just get the pressure on, but because it can actually answer the Mountain Giants and Doom Guards from Tom as well.
These is a very crucial couple turns coming up from Tom. He's the playmaker. I mean, Priest can wait as long as they can and stall for the combo damage, but Warlock has to be the one making big plays. And we see Prince Taldaram come down onto the board. How is Orange going to respond to this?
This is pretty interesting because you don't usually see a 3/3 Acolyte of Pain. There are 8 cards in Tom's hand, so he's not worried about the threat of potentially overdrawing. He's also not playing a deck that is quite as reliant on very specific cards, and if he were, he has most of them in his hand already.
Right.
Wonder.
This is Orange's most trusty deck. And he kind of talked about some of the pressure that's coming on his shoulders here for the tournament, but maybe it's been relieved because his family and his fans are watching. He had some chances to talk about that with us before his match.
I have my father, his wife, my mother and her boyfriend, and my brother and his girlfriend all flying out here to see me play. So everyone's coming, I guess. It's their first time seeing me play Hearthstone on a live stage. So what better time than Worlds, right?
That's a live shot of his family and friends there, but that's a lot of tickets too. I mean, 6 tickets extra.
Yeah,
I hope he didn't have to pay for all of them.
I had a chance to actually have dinner with Orange the first night we were both here, and you know, he realized that his match was one of the first that was going to happen, and he's saying, I better do well enough that I'm still in the tournament by the time they get here. And
right.
He's still here today, and they're here today, so that's what counts.
Yeah, very first one of the first matches of the entire tournament, and then that'd be pretty sad to lose early, but he's here thankfully and trying to fight for a better position into the top 8.
In this particular spot, it's actually a pretty dangerous one for Orange because leaving up any big minion against the cube deck can result in it getting cubed and then the cube Dark Pacted, so it can essentially double the copies of Mountain Giant that Tom would have if it survived through his next turn. Orange does have that Shadow Word Death in his hand, so he can take it out if he so chooses.
Yeah, that's a high priority. But then, you know, this is why Mountain Giants are so important because they have multiple layers of threats. It's, you know, now we have the Possessed Lackey or the Skull Minari. Like, all these things can pull out big minions. And there is also the Blood Reaver Gul'dan in the hand, which allows Tom to get pressure. And if Orange doesn't find Raz of the Jade, it might not be enough damage coming out from Shadow Reaper Anduin.
Yeah, and looking at Tom's hand here, he has the Possessed Lackey, he has a Dark Pact, he has 2 Void Lords, he has the Spirit Singer Umbra. He has so many tools to actually make any of these giant demons that make it into play into serious threats against Orange.
Yes, the Spirit Singer Umbra Carnivorous Cube Dark Pact combo with the Doom Guard is crazy burst. It could pretty much almost kill the opponent in one turn.
And he has Gul'dan already, so if he does make a bunch of Doom Guards, even if Orange answers them with Shadow Reaper Anduin, they're going to come back eventually.
Well, you're assuming that we don't respawn all Voidwalkers
It's true.
onto the board. I have some fair share of, like, I had 4 or 5 Doomguards die. None of them came back before.
And, one of the things Orange was certainly looking for here was a polymorph, because that can prevent the shenanigans with Blood River Gul'dan as well as potentially with Cube.
This one will prove very useful.
This one will prove very useful. You are correct, Skull Luminari. A Void Lord comes down for free off the Skull, and Tom has a lot of options here with how he wants to utilize it. The fact that Tom has both of his Dark Packs in hand means that even the burn plan from Orange overturns will be difficult, because Tom has so many ways to replenish his life. Though he is still, pretty far off from being able to actually assemble those Doomguard combos because he has not yet drawn one.
The cards draw source here from Orange is so powerful, though. I think Tom would, obviously love to maybe threaten to put out some bigger minions, but, if you allow the Cleric and the Acolyte to survive, there's almost, an overwhelming percentage chance by the time Raza gets drawn. And then by then, you're shortening your own game plan. Like, he has to get his Doomguards out onto the board, try to threaten and pressure with the Carnivorous Cube.
All right, he decides to go ahead and Spellstone the Acolyte. This does mean that if Orange finds, say, a Circle of Healing, he has the ability to Pain the Void Lord, attack into the Voidwalkers, and then maybe draw a bunch of cards.
Right.
And Orange does have Shadow Visions, so if he wants to go digging for that draw, he does have that possibility.
Right.
However, he has already 9 cards in his hand, so Shadow Word Pain, Shadow Visions would leave him still with 8. So it may not be worth taking that dig and trying to draw too many. There is always the risk of, well, speaking of things that are powerful with Circle Healing and Northshire Cleric, but Orange would need to find ways to use some of the other resources in his hand before he tries to draw quite a lot.
Yep, and another problem is that things like Curious Root put another card in his hand. He has to dump something. Looks like he cares the least about the Silence combo, considering that by the time the cube comes down, Warlock will have already benefited from its Death Rattle. It's very optimistic to assume Tom's going to play the cube and leave it at that.
There is a little bit of awkwardness in just the Silence plus Pain here, as you mentioned, the fact that there's no Voidwalkers that die. It does mean that the Gul'dan will be more consistent in terms of generating the powerful minions for Tom when it eventually does come down.
And Silence also just got used too, so potential Cabal Lackey setup here for Tom. All he has to do is do his best to ensure that the Doomguard survives, which is why you want to actually sometimes have the Doomguard in your hand instead of recruit it from the Possessed Lackey. So that way, the Doomguard gets pulled on your turn, you play Spear Singer Umbra, Carnivorous Cube, do all your attack, get 25 damage.
There is certainly some issue for Tom with playing the Lackey and also potentially just getting it hit by a Potion of Madness so he doesn't get the Doomguard.
Yes, that is a big problem.
And there's Potion of Madness. But specifically there, I feel like Tom recognized that the Northshire Cleric draw potential was the biggest threat because he does need to keep Orange from getting his combo online himself.
Yeah, cube lock can be pretty tricky. Sometimes you feel like, yeah, now's a good time to pull a trigger. I have 2 cubes, Gul'dan, like why not go for it? But that could have been pretty disastrous if he got greedy with his Dark Packs and didn't coin it out. So keeping his options open, and Orange does not get the optimal usage of Potion of Madness now.
And we're really seeing, or will soon be seeing, one of the reasons the Cube Warlock deck is so much stronger than the traditional control-style Warlock, because the burst potential that does come from the Doomguard cubes does mean that they can just end the game in one fell swoop, which is crucial for the Warlock to be able to ultimately defeat the combo potential of the Priest, who, if the game goes long, can assemble upwards of 40 damage from hand.
Right. And it's starting to get a little bit scary here for Orange. He's committing a lot of his resources, and if Raza is, again, we've seen it happen before, Raza's in the bottom 2 cards or so, you might not have any more resources to really burst the Warlock, because then they can just outlast you with Blood Reaver Gul'dan.
Right.
Still no sign of a Doomguard coming into Tom's hand, but now he can start thinking about his Possessed Lackey. Potion of Madness has been used, Silence has been used, There's no Mass Dispel. The only card that could really bypass the Death Rattle would be Psychic Scream in Orange's deck list. He's been aggressively life tapping because he can set up the Doomguard big combo play. But then even then, he'd still be short damage because his priest is at 30.
Yeah, for how long this game has gone, the fact that both players, including the Warlock, who's been life typing, are at 30 life,
Right.
is a little crazy.
There's there's always that moment too when you draw Defile and you see several minions on the board with different health totals. You think, is there a Defile available here? And it looks like it's pretty close if you trade in one of the Voidwalkers. Not quite the Defile that clears everything, but perhaps good enough.
And he has seen the Potion of Madness, which means that Orange has used Potion and has used the Silence. So there's no answer to the Possessed Lackey pulling out a Doomguard guaranteed.
Right.
So Orange, if he wants to prevent the threat of this Doomguard getting cubed and creating many, many friends, needs to clear the Lackey and the Doomguard this turn.
Right. Which he can.
He can. He can, if he wants, he can just attack into the Lackey and play Anduin.
Seems like that's what he's aiming towards.
He also has the opportunity to Dragonflyer plus Smite, but I imagine getting the Anduin Hero Power online so he can start advancing his own game plan, right, is more his speed, and that's exactly what he does. However, Tom does have Gul'dan. He has one Gul'dan this turn if he wants, which brings back double Void Lord, triple Voidwalker, and a Doomguard guaranteed.
Seems pretty good to me. And the only answer to that is Psychic Scream, or at least the only clean answer to that is Psychic Scream. I don't think he's anticipating this Dragonfire Potion Hellfire. Even then, that doesn't clear the board.
Right, because there are the double Doomguards, or rather the double Void Lords. And, you know, like we said, the fact that Orange Silence Pained one of these Void Lords meant that there weren't the extra Voidwalkers hanging around to muck up the possible resurrection of these demons.
And Orange is well aware of the threat of the cube, so he needs to deal with that Doomguard.
And there's Psychic Scream.
Wow, Psychic Scream will dilute so many draws, and without life tap, Tom's going to have a little bit harder time finding the combo pieces.
If Tom just starts drawing Voidwalkers here, it's pretty poor for him. Found Immortal Coil. He does have the Lackey.
Yes, and he can pull out multiple demons.
With the Umbra, he will get...
There's like 6
He
demons.
gets Voidwalker, Voidwalker. Oh, no, there's a Void Lord. Oh, God. Okay, well.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what
This is
what
right
was
after
in his
you
deck.
just got Psychic Screamed, and this is the board that you're left with immediately afterward.
Yeah. Seems good. Blemish Thanos, you know, low-key a pretty good draw here for Orange because he needs to draw. Obviously, he would love to get Raza, but if he can't get Raza, get some card draw because he's still missing some of the most powerful cards in the bottom of his deck.
Yeah, only 7 cards left in his deck, and still needs to find, frankly, just the burst damage to close out the game. Tom has Gul'dan, so he can't just plink away at his life total effectively.
Right.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh, that's a Doomguard, and there is no way to remove it in Orange's hand.
But at least the Spirit Singer Umbra has been dealt with, so the burst has been significantly reduced. That said, this is going to be a pretty painful turn.
It is. And the fact that Orange is now in Anduin mode means that he can't just easily keep himself alive with his hero power. There's a Voidwalker.
Yeah.
That's what Orange kind of wishes was hit instead. And the Cube plus Dark Pact brings back 2 more Voidwalker, or rather Doomguards. Pushes for 13 more damage this turn. 3 more from the hero power.
Orange has to hope for another Psychic Scream.
He does have the ability to Dragonfire ping.
Oh, you're right.
So he can remove these Doomguards, but again, he's just at very low life. There's Raza finally, but he has to react this turn. He can't leave these Doomguards up.
Right.
And even then, he will still be leaving 3 Voidwalkers up.
Right.
And there will be a hero power, so he's taking at least 6 next turn from those alone.
And there's a Doomguard in the deck still that got shuffled back. So there's a draw for lethal, plus the Hellfires are also a possibility. And then there's ways to even draw to give himself additional outs. So Tom has a very solid chance for lethal on the next turn.
Yeah, Orange recognizing he has to get rid of these Doom Guards. Dragonfire, Ping, Dragonfire. Yeah. Well, other order. Ping, Dragonfire, Ping. Regardless. Leaves up the 3 Voidwalkers.
Tom's on 25% chance to win right now.
Faceless, that is not going to end the game. He does still have the ability to, if he wants to play, say a cube here, or yeah, he's going to just go ahead and cube here to ensure that there's more threat in the board. There's really not that much that Orange has access to that can clear the board and keep his life up. He potentially just needs to Psychic Scream this, and you can't do that at the same time as playing Priest of the Feast.
Priest of the Feast can heal for 6 with 7-10 showing on the board. Lyra could potentially give him something.
I mean, he could have Priest, Lyra, Holy Smite into a bunch of zeros.
Yes.
I honestly think that's the only way that Orange has to try and find a way out of this game.
Yeah, the Lyra the Sun Shard has to give him a handful of 0 mana spells, and even then, that still doesn't guarantee anything.
Okay, he finds a Psychic Scream, but I'm not even sure what he could find at this point.
There's a 0 mana spell.
Okay.
But it would have been too expensive with Priest of the Feast.
Or
shield.
That's not going to do it.
Throws so many cheap spells, but it's not going to be enough. Orange has conceded. Tom is up 2-0, 1 game away from going to the top 8.
We saw Orange struggle with that Priest deck in the previous series where these two met. It is his favorite deck, but will it let him down once again?
Tensions are high here. The Beers Van Bellage, as the home crowd here is cheering desperately for Orange. Tom wants to play spoiler, but I mean, there's plenty more action of Hearthstone happening, not just in this series, but also with Muzzy and Jason So, who are looking on as well. They will play the Group B decider following this series. And again, same situation. Winner goes on to the top 8 and plays later today. Loser's path stops in the top 12.
I do have to say one thing that I've seen consistently from these players. Right when they're about to go on to play their own matches, they're all sitting by the screens, watching the match going on, talking about the plays, talking about what they would do. They're just so focused on Hearthstone, just in general. Not even just their own match, but they can't stop thinking about it.
Yeah, and Orange's family looking on, of course, trying to cheer on their favorite player. But he's going to need a lot in order to make this comeback. It's going to be difficult. We have 1 deck remaining here from tom60229. It's his Rogue. Now, we have seen Rogue swept. It's still a really powerful deck, but it's not infallible.
It's true. Rogue is potentially a powerful deck, but also potentially an inconsistent deck. We saw the deck struggle a number of times. Kalento actually was swept on his Tempo Rogue after being up 2-0 against Jason Joe. For instance, just yesterday we saw Surrender toward the end of the day have just a draw with a lot of expensive cards and very little he could muster. But Tom here, he has a Firefly opening to start, so he's not going to be lacking for early plays.
Yeah, Tom even knows it himself. He lost 2 out of his 3 games against Doc Poe with his Rogue, too. Yeah. Rogue has struggled a lot. Sub 50% win rate. Definitely a deck that's underperformed, but people are accounting for Rogue a lot in their lineups. So it just could be a product of collateral damage based off preparation.
Orange picks up a Swashbuckler, does have access to patches, so he could find that pirate and take down the Firefly from Tom. So let's go ahead and just dagger up once we have that available overturn. We have seen a lot of players forego getting patches in their deck with the pirate and immediately Tom also has the opportunity to dagger here or play a pair of 1/2s with Firefly and Flame Elemental.
And more board presence is always what you're looking for. Tom choosing to take it slow. Recognizes that there's a ton of value in these Flame Elementals if he's able to use it for combo enablers or even Bone Mirror targets.
Orange pick up a Quarter Creeper, one of the key cards in this, not in this tournament period, but certainly in this matchup to give big swing turns. In particular in combination with combo cards as well. Works very well, enabling say Quarter Creeper, rather Vilespine when the Quarter Creeper costs 0 mana. We've seen some very powerful swings with that.
You know, speaking of the board tempo here, Orange has some really nice 1-mana cards to maybe fill the board, but they're also really powerful with the cards on the left side of his hand. He's got Elven Minstrel, Vilespine Slayer, and Van Cleave. They all are combo-centric. So Orange can get to pass it over to the top. It's been a pretty slow start.
Both players definitely taking this very slow, in particular given that they both have cards they could be playing. Tom picks up a Quarter Creeper of his own, so he will also have that major tempo swing available to him on the same pace as Orange, thanks to both of them being at the same cost in hand right now.
So many.
Not even see the screen like that. He's like looking straight down.
Yes, I have role played and sat in that seat during rehearsals to try and see what it's like. So clearly I'll never get to that stage. And I have my spirit brother Tom do it for me.
Yeah,
but when
you're there.
But I mean, there's a lot of distractions, you know. There's a lot of lights and cameras and people, but that's why a lot of players, they put their hands over their eyes to try and focus and minimize the amount of distractions.
Another Vilespine Slayer picked up for Orange is strong at some point, but he is lacking the ability to enable these quickly right now. And now with the Captain of Apache, he is under pressure.
He can clear and develop his Van Cleave this turn and get some board presence in this scenario where he really needs to make sure that his opponent can't run away with the board, because the opponent that has the coin often can set the tempo very powerfully with Vilespine Slayers or coining out the Bone Mare.
Well, there is no Slayer available to Tom, so he can't just take care of this Edwin easily. He does have access to the SI agent he just picked up, so a number of ways he can enable that.
Yeah, Tyrannic Chain Gang is also not too bad. It kind of stops, it stops really powerful Vilespine swings, and also it kind of lets you keep the coin, so that way you can make bigger swings with Bone Mirror, or if you even want to coin out the Lich King in an instance where your opponent denied you the board, you can't Bone Mirror.
So many options.
He does have, you know, the Chain Gang and attacking into the Pirate is certainly something that can soften Edwin up here and potentially just allow him to kill it with the SI agent next turn. He could also just play Flame Elemental into SI and trade off his Captain. It looks like he wants the value here.
Yeah, interesting. Not pushing 3 face damage, but instead keeping the dagger, anticipating that he might need this. There's a lot of use for it, not just for the extra damage onto the board and what you can trade into, but also if you draw South Sea Captain to help get extra charge damage onto the board. And the Quarter Creeper is getting cheaper.
That even goes into the meme, because it rhymes with Creeper.
That's right. Although, I mean, all memes aside, we're getting pretty serious here. Orange looking more desperate as the match progresses. Doesn't look like he's going to get the initiative with Quarter Creeper, but he does have double Vilespine. That is a way and his ticket out of here. But in order to do so, he has to stall. Now, Match of Disguise is also kind of an interesting card here.
Interestingly, he could attack and then disguise his Edwin, so there's no easy trade available for Tom. And that does allow him to keep his Flame Elemental to potentially enable a Vilespine next turn.
Enter the shadows.
No.
Edwin will, in fact, enter the shadows. That protects it from SI Agent. Which is at least one of the ways that I'm sure Tom was hoping he was going to remove the Edwin after it bounced off of one of the chain gangs.
Right, and because Tom was so focused on a lot of the board trades, Orange had a little bit more health than normal compared to Tom was playing very aggressively.
And the next chain gang does help really mitigate the impact of the Vilespine Slayers Orange has.
But now, Orange has a Corridor Creeper initiative with a Vilespine. Or, you know, it's interesting too, because the Elven Minstrel also challenges the board slightly, but it also gives him a lot more long games, so that way he doesn't have to use these cards suboptimally. You know, you don't want to put a Vile Spine in a position where you can't really benefit off the board. Although the 3-4 does challenge the 2-3, so I can see a case for both sides here.
Well, the scariest thing for Orange here is the fact that Tom is going into a 6-mana turn and still has the coin. So Bone Mare is available, and he has 4 minions in the board.
Right, so there's value in keeping the Vile Spine.
There is, though he does have a second Vile Spine. He also has Shadow Step, so he's got to be at least some thought given to the fact that he may want to potentially even Shadow Step that Vile Spine. Gonna go ahead and wield the coin Bone Mare. And creeper of his own. Now Tom's figuring out exactly how he wants to divide this damage up.
Well, the 1-2 I think is gonna. I'd be very surprised if the 1-2 traded, but I think the question is whether Serenite Chain Gang trades into the Quarter Creeper or the Vile Spine Slayer. One mana off from doing some crazy stuff.
Yeah. Orange could just Shadow Step his Vile Spine, SI, and Vile Spine this turn.
Yes.
Which
SI and... Oh, you mean the Shadow Step Vile Spine?
Shadow Step the Vile Spine now. Play the SI, kill the 6-2. Vile Spine, kill a 5-5. The problem is that doesn't even leave him ahead. It still leaves him behind a 5-5 on the board. He has a 3-3 and a 3-4 just against a Vile Spine at that point. Or rather just against that 5-5.
This guy's toast.
Gonna go ahead and hold on to it a little bit longer. Oh no, he's gonna, okay, yeah, decides to run it this way.
Yeah, Tom unhappy to see that. These Vile Spines are big power spikes, and I love the sequencing so that way he can get that extra attack onto the 1-2. And again, Orange's life total is pretty high, all things considering. Tom was also shaking his head. He's a little quick off the gun with this turn. A little uncharacteristic. He's been playing very methodical, and sometimes when the turns play themselves, he's been fast. But this one was a very quick response.
And fighting very hard for the board here to take out this other Vile Spine. Again, yeah, he has a wide board here, which the Vile Spine in Orange's hand is not particularly well suited to dealing with. Captain picked up, not going to do too much here.
It's a decent combo enabler.
He could Captain into Minstrel, hope to find Southsea deckhand, which would allow him to clear off at least a significant portion of the board, but and hopefully find a cheap minion to enable his Vile Spine as well. He does know that there is a Lich King in Tom's deck, and Tom has kind of played a number of cheap things throughout the turns, so there could be another Bone Mare. There could be the Lich King waiting in hand, so he has to be at least somewhat worried about committing this Vile Spine on this turn, especially on a damaged quarter.
Right, and not to mention that Tom hasn't shown a single Vile Spine himself, so it sets up a big target, takes a value trade. Could end up getting punished heavily himself by the Bone Mare.
Does not find a deckhand, so can only clear with what he has on the board right now.
There's a fairly low chance for that to happen, but the bait has been set. Orange was hoping for this outcome, actually.
Yeah.
And he has to hope also that there's no real big card picked up by the Lich King here. We've seen Army of the Dead destroy games with Tempo Rogue.
Oh no. You said it. You had to say it, didn't you, Frodan?
How long can this go?
There's 4 spells in Tom's deck. 2 backstabs, 2 shadow steps.
He even has Keleseth to play first. Well, he just drew a backstab.
Yeah,
Keleseth into Army of the Dead, and that is going to be a big one. See a shake of the head from Orange.
Oh my goodness.
5 huge minions come into play.
That is why people are putting Lich King in the Tempo Rogue deck. So much powerful swings capable, but Army of the Dead, one of the strongest, if not the strongest. And all of a sudden, it looked like Orange was hanging in there, but it looks like Tom is in a position to win next turn if Orange can't find himself a way out of this.
Deckhand Bone Mare can deal with some of these, but all the buffed minions as well get them even that much farther out of range of the damage-based removal. Bone Mare SI can kill a couple of things. I think Orange might be able to stay alive on the board, but I think Leroy Jenkins in Tom's hand is going to say otherwise next turn.
Yeah, Tom said that in 2014, there was a lot left to be desired with his play. It took him 3 years to come back to the championship. He's gotten really close, even as recently as last year. And it looks like he will finally at least be able to get one step further into his dream to become the world champion. It looks like he's going to eliminate Orange. A breath of relief comes over Tom's face. He is moments away from eliminating Orange and moving on to the top 8.
Leroy Jenkins will do it, and that is it for the Swedish player. Tom will advance to the quarterfinals.
tom60229 has sent yet another European player home.
And the story regionally in this tournament has been Europe struggling and Asia Pacific doing very well.
That's right.
Tom has now joined both Samuel Sao and Surrender, all 3 representatives of the Asia Pacific region, through to the quarterfinals.
Asia Pacific reigns supreme here in the World Championship. Samuel Sao, Surrender, and Tom all booked their tickets to the top 8. And of course, Doc Pone is the other member from Group A. And when you look at the results here, when you look at Hoy, Orange, Doc Pone, and Tom, I wasn't exactly sure if it was going to end up like this. I kind of expected Hoy or Orange to get through as one of the 2.
I think everyone did. They were definitely players who a lot of people thought were the favorites of the entire tournament, but Tom has something else to say about that.
He is waiting with Raven for a few words on his victory.
Thanks a lot, Dan. Congratulations, Tom. You did make it through to the next stage. How are you feeling going into this series versus Orange?
首先恭喜获胜啊，然后能打到下一轮胜者组决赛。然后你觉得在和那个 Orange 对阵中，你感觉怎么样？
有一点我还蛮开心的，就是今天的出阵都有抓到我想要抓的牌组，然后整体抽牌也都蛮顺的，所以蛮开心的。
I think one thing I'm satisfied is that my lineup was overly favorable in my matchups, and my draws is not holding me down, so I'm pretty happy.
Okay, and in that last game, after you played the Lich King, you got Army of the Dead. What was going through your mind then? Do you think the Army of the Dead just won the game for you right then? Did you decide before you even played it?
然后是打出巫妖王，就是打出那个王者大军的时候，你是不是觉得自己已经胜券在握了？那个时候想法怎么样呢？
我那时候一直在想，拜托不要有炸鸡暗闪，不要有炸鸡暗闪。那 Leroy and Shadow Step, if he have, I will die.
Yeah, it was definitely a decider there. That was absolutely insane when we saw it come off the Lich King. It was huge. And one last question is, you're going to be facing Samuel Zhao in the next in your next match that will be coming up later on. How do you feel? Because you practiced with him, and also he's a fellow Asia Pacific player. How are you feeling on that one?
下一轮因为比赛中也会面到那个小曹嘛，然后可能就是跟你一起训练，然后又是等于是老乡嘛，就说这个等于说自己感想怎么样呢？
我还蛮开心的，因为如果我们在8强遇到，就表示台湾至少有一个人会进4强，然后我们会努力打出一场好比赛。
I'm actually quite relieved that just guarantees that one of the Taiwanese players heading to the semifinal. So I'm actually thinking that it's boding well for us. So I just want to keep playing well, and hopefully that we can go further.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a great match. We get another round of applause for Tom. Going to go over to TJ and Admirable.